Welcome to the Kectil Global Roundup, your monthly source for news and updates from around the world. Hello everyone, and today we are continue to discuss about different news from around the world, and I'm Oleksandra Fomin, your host for today's episode. From international politics and economic shift to climate change and social movements, we will dive into the top stories making headlines around the world. So stay tuned as we break down the news you need to know and explore what it means for all of us. So first of all, let's start from the Philippines. Confrontation in the South China Sea between China and the Philippines continue despite efforts by Beijing and Manila to better manage their maritime dispute. Territorial row between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea has turned increasingly violent, with the two sides trading allegations of international boat ramming, and Manila accusing Chinese Coast Guard personnel of using water cannon against its troops and engaging in first fights with threats and knives. China claimed the Philippines is to blame for the confrontation, accusing Filipino troops of illegally intruding into its territory. In September, it said its ties with the Philippines were at a crossroad and urged Manila to seriously consider the future of their relationship. The escalation tension have threatened to draw in the United States, which has a mutual defense treaty with the Philippines and has promised to come to Manila's aid in the case of any armed third-party attack against Filipino troops. This includes on a Coast Guard personnel, aircraft, and public vessels anywhere in the South China Sea. The sea is one of the world's most economically important waterways, with cargo worth an estimated $3.4 trillion shipped through it every year. The waters also contain rich fishing grounds that provide for the livelihood of millions of people across the region. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the South China Sea also contains about 11 billion barrels of oil rates as proved or probable reserve and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Those unexplored hydrocarbons could be worth $2.5 trillion. Chinese vessels have clashed with or engaged in standoffs with survey ships from other countries, including Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia, disturbing their attempts to exploit those resources in recent decades. Tensions have been the greatest between China, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Next country where we will deep into more news that's going on there will be Myanmar. In Rakhine State, Myanmar minority groups like the Rohingya and Maragaya are suffering due to ongoing violence between the Arakan army and the military. Many families have been displaced and access to basic necessities in severely limits. The Arakan army has claimed territory and aims for the more autonomy, but its actions have led to fears among these communities. While the Arakan army promotes a vision of inclusivity, some minorities feel marginalized and face violence, including forced recruitment. Reports indicate that the military is targeting specific ethnic group, adding to the chaos and fear. Many civilians are feeling trapped and vulnerable. Community members express a desire for a better future where all groups are treated equally and included in decision-making process. They want assurance of safety and support um, from the Arakan army, hoping for genuine commitment to their rights and needs. The situation remains dire, and many are calling for urgent help and protection. And yeah, around the world, we're facing a lot of different difficulties, different crises, wars, and fightings. And another country that I wanna bring to attention you, it is Ukraine, my native country, because there is Ukrainian army is facing a crisis with many soldiers deserting due to poor condition on the front line and the uncertainty of the year service. Reports indicate that over 30,000 prosecutions for desertion have occurred this year, significantly higher than in previous year. Soldiers express how low morale and execution, often working under heavy fire without sufficient breaks or rest. In response to the rising desertion rates, Ukraine's parliament has um, decriminalized first-time attempts to flee the army, allowing soldiers to return if they do so. The ongoing war has made the situation dire, with Ukrainian forces struggling against large Russian numbers, leading to increased calls for better support and resources for the troops. Additionally, the challenge faced by the Ukrainian army are compounded by inadequate suppliers and weaponry. Soldiers report feeling poorly equipped, often unable to engage effectively in combat due to a lack of ammunition. This situation has caused frustration and despair among troops, leading to increased calls for faster military aid from Eastern allies. As the war continues, many soldiers are um, evaluating their commitment with some preferring the certainty of imprisonment over the predictable number nature of combat. The Russia-Ukraine war continues into its more than 900 days. There have been significant development on both the front lines and in political circles. In Kiev, Russian drones attacks have injured civilians and damaged buildings, while Ukrainian forces are engaged in intense street fighting in eastern region like Seledov. Russian reports destroying Ukrainian drones over the several regions, but Ukraine also claims successful strike deep within Russian territory. On the diplomatic front, six Russian soldiers have defended to France, seeking asylum and potentially encouraging others to resist the war. Meanwhile, terrorists rise as Ukrainian President Zelensky calls for international attention regarding North Korea's involvement in the conflict, while Russia strengthens its ties with countries like the UAE and Serbia aims ongoing Western pressure. In neighbor country to Ukraine, Moldova, recent referendum resulted in a narrow approval for EU membership, with the yes was at 50.39%. This vote reflects a significant moment for the nation, signaling its desire to strengthen ties with Europe in ongoing geopolitical tensions. However, the process has been marred by allegations of Russia interference and intimidation with an EU spoken person, nothing the unprecedented foreign influence leading up to the vote. President Maya Sandu, who is also running for re-election, characterized the environment surrounding the referendum as a substantial assault on Moldova's democracy. She accused organized criminal groups of attempting to buy votes, claiming that around 300,000 votes were targeted for manipulation. These claims, along with the involvement of fugitive take on Ilan Shore, who has been accused of orchestrating fraud from abroad, highlights the tumultuous political landscape in Moldova. As the election unfolds, Sandu leads with about more than 40% of the presidential vote, while her main rival Alexandra Stoyanov uh, garners 26.3%. The election outcomes could lead to a runoff if no candidates achieve over 50% of the vote. Stoyanov has proposed a more balanced foreign policy, seeking to engage with both Western nations and Russia. The referendum and presidential elections signify a critical juncture for Moldova, testing its national identity and future direction in its external procedures. And you see both countries, Ukraine and Moldova, facing almost the same issues. A few years ago, Ukraine had the same issue with the referendums, with the Euromaidan, and revolution of dignity. And at the same time, Ukrainian people also voted for pro-European strategy for our country. Right now, Moldova is facing the same challenge, and we will see in the future how it will finish or not. Next country, Georgia, in the land up to crucial parliament election, tens of thousands of Georgians rallied in Tbilisi to express their support for European Union membership. The rally attended by pro-Western President Salome Zurabichvili highlighted the public desire for a European future amidst concerns over the ruling Georgian Dream party's shift towards authoritarianism. The protesters waved European Union and Georgia's flags while calling for unity and development, underscoring their commitment to the path of European Union integration. This rally follows the freezing of Georgia's European Union accession talks, which occurred after the controversial foreign influence law was passed earlier this year, drawing heavy criticism both domestically and internationally. The law, seen as a tool to suppress dissent, sparked mass protest and sanctions from the United States against Georgian officials. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell has emphasized that the upcoming election represents a critical test for democracy and Georgia's aspiration for European integration. Opinion polls indicate that opposition parties may be poised to form a coalition government, challenging the ruling party's long-standing grip on power. However, analysts warn that attempts by Georgian Dreams to cling to authority could lead to unrest, given the party's recent pivot away from its initial pro-Western policies toward closer ties with Moscow aims regional tension. As Georgia navigates this pivotal moment, approximately 80% of its citizens continue to support bids for European Union and NATO membership. And now let's move on to another continent, to another country. It will be Mexico because there is Catholic priest Marcelo Perez was tragically shot dead in Chiapas, Mexico, shortly after leaving Sunday services, highlighting the increasing violence in the region. Known for his advocacy for indigenous and labor rights, Perez was a significant figure in the community activity opposing organized crime and championing social justice. His assassination follows a disturbing trend of violence against those who challenge criminal groups and advocate for marginalized populations. The Jesuit order to which Paris belonged described him as a symbol of resistance, emphasizing his long-standing commitment to the rights and the dignity of the people in the Chiapas. Local authorities have expressed their determination to ensure that his killing does not go unpunished yet, with around 95% homicides in Mexico remaining unsolved. The past the judges appears doubting. Human rights organizations have voiced concern about the increasing threats faced by activists in Mexico, particularly those defending Indigenous land and environmental rights. The United Nations Human Rights Office in Mexico noted that Paris had been publicly warned about escalating threats due to his advocacy work. This does not only marked a loss for the community, but also raised alarm about the safety of those fighting for justice in a country grappling with pervasive violence. Um, Neighbor country, almost neighbor country to this one, Cuba, also face some challenges because Hurricane Oscar has made landfall of Cuba's northern east coast, aimed at dire national power crisis, compounding the struggles of the country already facing several electricity shortage. The storm struck near Baracoa with winds reaching 130 kilometers per hour. Just millions of Cubans were still reeling from a massive blackout caused by the failure of the island's largest power plant. This blackout has left the nation grappling with extensive shortage of food, medicine, and fuel, escalating the urgency of the crisis. In preparation for Oscar arrival, President Miguel Diaz-Canel announced efforts to protect both people and resources. However, the power grid collapsed multiple times in the days leading up to the hurricane, creating a situation of widespread uncertainty. Residents expressed frustration and despair over the ongoing outage, with some having gone days without power. The government has declared an energy emergency, closing schools and prioritizing electricity for essential service, but the situation remains uh, precarious. The combination of Hurricane Oscar impact and the ongoing power crisis has ignited fears of the public unrest similar to that seen in July 2021 when blackouts triggered protests. That suddenly linked the energy difficulties to the long-standing U.S. Trade embargo, complicated efforts to restore normalcy. The storms raised concern about the potential for further devastation in a country already on the brink due to its energy woes. And let's discuss a bit about US election as well, because former President Donald Trump has announced plans to use 1798 law to carry out mass deportation in the US. He claimed this initiative called Operation Aurora will be begin in Aurora, Colorado. At his rise, Trump has referred to a Venezuela gang in the area, stating that he wants to target and dismantle migrants' criminal networks. The law he intended to invoke, the Island Enemies Act, allows the president to deport individuals from a country that is hostile to the US. However, experts argue that it can only be used during wartime. Since the US is not currently at war, experts say Trump's plan may face significant legal challenges. The Allies Enemies Act has been used in the past, but only during wars such as the War of 1812 and World War II. Legal scholars believe that using this law for mass deportation in peacetime would be a massive of power and could lead to a court challenges. Trump has previously promised mass deportation during his 2016 campaign, but didn't fulfill that promise during his presidency. Experts note that while there are existing law for deportation, the challenge lies in the resources required to carry out such operation effectively. Yeah, we will see how it will end this autumn. Yeah, and another challenge that we're facing right now is significant health challenges with around 4.5 billion people lacking access to essential health care, according to the World Health Organization. Recent outbreak of disease like mpox, cholera, and a new COVID-19 variant have highlighted the urgency of growing global health responses. Despite these challenges, there is concern that lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic have not been fully learned, as many health systems have revealed pre-pandemic norms, risking preparation for future outbreaks. Dr. Ahmed Ogwell from the United Nations Foundation emphasized that the current global health risk is at the moderate level due to various disease outbreaks and the lingering efforts of COVID-19. He warned that the world must engage its surveillance and cooperation to effectively respond to health emergency, especially as new diseases emerge at spread easily across borders. The geopolitical climate and humanitarian crisis also heighten global health responses, making it crucial to address the root cause of disease spread, particularly in conflict zones. Poor living conditions in these areas can create a breeding ground for new disease, potentially impacting global health if these outbreaks spread. Additionally, climate change is exacerbating health issues as changes in weather patterns allow disease to spread to new areas. Dr. Ogwell pointed out that the lack of government investments in healthcare and the commercialization of health service contribute to inadequate access to care for vulnerable population, making it vital for government to invest more in health system to prepare for future pandemics. Yeah, a lot of challenges we see during the just 1 month around the world. And the next country that I also want to discuss today with you, it will be Pakistan, because Pakistan's government has passed a new constitutional amendment allowing parliament to select a Supreme Court Chief Justice, who will now serve a fixed 3 year term. This move is viewed as an effort to reduce the influence of the judiciary, which has recently supported former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The amendment was passed after extensive discussion and was seen by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif as a step toward reinforcing parliament power. The amendment arrives as the Chief Justice Qais Issa prepares to retire, a transition that may impact future court uh, rulings. Critics, particularly from Khan Pakistan Tehreek Insaf party, argue this change undermines the judiciary independence, while some analysis suggests it could lead to greater government command over the judiciary. Sharif coalitions, which include the Pakistan People Party, achieved a two-thirds majority in favor of the amendment, but opposition leads expressed concern that it does not reflect that the will of the people. Yeah, and the amendment could exacerbate existing tension between the government and the judiciary, particularly given the backdrop of ongoing legal challenges involving Khan, who remains a prominent figure in Pakistan despite his imposing on changes he claims are politically motivated. In Nigeria, a devastating fuel tanker explosion was in Maya. Nigeria has claimed the lives of 170 people, primarily young individuals, drawn to the stand by the spilled fuel. Witnesses reported that the tanker overturned while attempting to avoid another vehicle, leading to a fire that engulfed the crowd. Survivors and families are left grappling with immense loss, with many directly affected, including those who rushed to help. Community members such as local Baches, Ozari Musa Mainama recounted their harrowing experience and injuries sustained while trying to assist others. The tragedy underscores the disparate circumstances many Nigerians face in economic hardship as rising fuel prices have led to a scramble for resources even in dangerous situations. In the aftermath, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has promised throughout a review of fuel transportation safety protocols, while local authorities are emphasizing the need for public awareness regarding the danger associated with fuel spills. The community vows to remember the incident as a poignant lesson on safety and the consequences of depression, marking a profound moment of collective mourning. Kenya's Deputy President Gachagua has been impeached, marking a historic moment as he became the first deputy to be removed from office under the 2010 constitution. His ouster follows a series of charges including corruption, incipient ethnic violence, and undermining the government. The Senate found him guilty of 5 of the 11 charges against him, despite Changua claims of political motivation behind the impeachment. The impeachment reflects depending rifts within the ruling coalition, as Gachagua, once a close ally of President William Ruto, has been increasingly sidelined. The favorite is um, reminiscent of previous political conflict in Kenya, such as the 2018 rifts between Ruto and former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Public relation has been mixed with the calls for accountability extending to President Ruto himself. Following the impeachment, President Ruto nominated Interior Minister Kihure Kindiki as the new deputy president. His rapid sessions suggested a politically orchestrated move to consolidate power and address public disconnected following recent protests against the government. Gachagua plans to challenge the impeachment in court, potentially prolonging the legal battle as the new administration takes shape. And last country for today that I want to bring your attention to, and this is Afghanistan. The United Nations has expressed serious concern about our report that a large group of Afghan migrants were tracked while attempting to cross into Iran. Afghan media resources, such as Stolen News, reported that over 200 migrants who entered Iran illegally were shot at, with many killed or injured. However, Iran's government has denied these claims, with its ambassador of Afghan refuting reports of the deaths of dozens of Afghans. The Taliban administration in Afghanistan has not yet confirmed the details of the incident and is currently investigating. The alleged attacks reportedly took place between October 14 and 15 in Iran's Sistan province near the Afghan border. The UN assistance mission in Afghanistan urgent for a thousand and transparent investigation emphasizing the international law, protect the rights of migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. At the moment, the Afghan government has struggled to confirm the details as the incident occurred beyond its border. A high-ranking Afghan delegation is working on collection information and will report once the facts are verified. The incident highlighting the broader challenge faced by Afghan migrants, many of whom fled the country after the Taliban took control in 2021, following the withdrawals of the US-led forces. Both Iran and Pakistan host millions of Afghan refugees, but have recently increased in restriction on their borders, leading to growing tension and difficulties for displacement Afghans. The situation underscores the vulnerability of migrants and the urgent need for clarity and justice in such incidents. And yeah, for today, this is all the news we wanted to share with you. Thank you for being with us. We wish you peace in your countries. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more significant updates and inspiring stories from around the world. We also have podcasts where you can find even more news and interesting finds, first-hand stories. You can find links to all of our social medias in description to this video, and also you can find a lot of interesting videos on our YouTube channel. Stay tuned and see you next month.
Stay tuned for next month's Kectil Global Roundup, where we'll continue to explore the latest news and trends shaping our world.